All right. What's up? What's up? Hello, people.
Welcome back.
Welcome to Free Spoken with Ali and Amy. We're so glad to have you tuning in with us. You want to start us off today, Amy?
Oh, sure. Yes, welcome back. We're glad to be with you all. And today we have so many things that we'd like to discuss, but I think we're going to narrow it down to just a few. And one thing that's really cool that I always like to discuss are, something conspiracy theories are those elusive, fun topics that either bring up excitement to dive into more of, or it's just makes you kind of cringe with like, oh, made up history, made up stories to just confuse us or make us believe something. But um, I just have always been a very independent thinker, and I've always loved to question my reality. So of course I just ate up all these like different expressions of truth and always questioned everything for myself to whether or not they were true, and never bought really the storyline um, for very long, because I think once you wake up to breaking through the matrix, I think that you're kind of always being able to have this ability to question reality and the stories that are presented. Um, but recently, in the last year and a half, my family and I moved to Montana from California. And it was just on the tail end of COVID. The whole COVID experience in California was pretty intense. And and it wasn't super homey for the independent thinker like myself. Um, and so in coming here to Montana, it has been a huge transition in a very freedom-minded aspect, because it's just a giant contrast to California in pretty much every way you can think of. Um, so recently my daughter, who's a junior at the local high school, here, and we're living in the Bitterroot Valley, just south of Missoula. And her high school humanities teacher has given them all an assignment to question the validity of the conspiracy theories that they were assigned. And there were like 4 people to a group, and they were all given different theories to investigate, to prove, disprove, or um, just have the jury is out. There's no resolution. And so it's kind of blown my mind that they did this assignment, and then the actual topics themselves, whereas I was just like grinning ear to ear that teachers would have this much freedom still in the United States to offer this type of free thinking activity to junior students, and then you not get fired for it like they would in California. So it's just phenomenal to me, and it's just really, really amazing for me to see this. And I shared this all with Ali, and she was as well blown away
Oh
and
my
loved
gosh.
it.
So, yes. Especially for a public school. What?
Yeah, yeah, and it's really amazing. I mean, I'll read the list of all these different topics, um, and I think there's a lot of you could definitely do your own research and find your own conclusions to these. Um, but much of this, I've definitely went down all of these rabbit holes to discover my own truth of what I intuitively came to understand. Um, so like the first one was 9/11 was an inside job designed to start a war for profit. The assassination of JFK was not done by Lee Harvey Oswald alone. It was performed by, choose one or all, US government, mafia, or the Soviet Union. The moon landing was faked. The US government knew the Japanese were planning to attack Pearl Harbor and intentionally allowed it to happen to protect, no, to for pretext for declaring war on Japan. And global warming is a hoax and was invented for a money-making scheme. The CIA was responsible for the urban crack epidemic of the 1980s. The US government deliberately misled the public in order to justify the invasion of Iraq in 2003. The HIV/AIDS was invented by the US government and deliberately spread in the US for population control and other purposes. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. was done with the assistance of the FBI, CIA, and US government. Deepwater Horizon oil spill of 2010 was an eco-sabotage to promote environmentalism. And extraterrestrial aliens exist and made contact with the Earth, and the US government has covered it up. So these were the topics for these groups of students to investigate and then do a presentation on. And it's pretty amazing.
That's so cool.
Mhm.
Dude, I was thinking while you're reading all this that I would die to be in that classroom with all those presentations. Like, I wish they would record it, because you know how interesting it will be to see like all these young, um, you know, minds coming from different families, origins, religions, backgrounds, um, class types, all of that coming together, and then just watching like how they form the thoughts that they do around this, because of the vast amount of like sources online. So like you can literally read about this in 20,000 different ways. And so
Yes.
what sources they choose and what sources come up for them in their Google versus what comes up in their friends on Google, all that stuff is going to be clashing together. And I'm just fascinated by what that could do for their minds and how they think about each other, and how that might paint a picture for them about how division can happen, just based on this one simple assignment. I mean, they could do this about so many different things, but like that is gonna be so dope. Like, I want to get a plane ticket and come out and just be like the fly on the wall, to watch that all come together. It's gonna be, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. 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 So far, she said the presentations were really good and, pretty convincing on what they found.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I told her how excited I was that her teachers were doing this. And then so she actually told her teacher about my excitement and my surprise. And they're like, yeah, we want to teach our kids, you guys, to think independently and not just believe what you're told.
Exactly. Oh my God.
I'm
Kidnap.
like, I'm like, I love your teachers.
Oh my gosh, that's so wild. It's like that's unheard of. You would never ever even try to even consider making a suggestion about doing anything like this in California. Just real talk. Like,
I
really
know.
real talk. Unless you're in some random tiny little town where ain't nobody trying to see what you're doing anyways. But like, big, no, they don't do. That's crazy. That's how it
I
needs to
know.
be. Our kids need to learn how to think for themselves, how to do their own research. Maddie did this one homeschool experience, and it was an amazing experience. It was
Mhm.
a little too much for her, just work wise, but it was phenomenal because they taught them to be, what would they call it? They did like Socratic questioning and taught them to do their own research. Not they
Mhm.
didn't give them the answers. They taught them to go find the answers themselves, and it was just mind-boggling how different that approach is to traditional schools. Like, it was I think they do that in some assignments and stuff, but for the most part, how we learn to learn in the public school setting is to memorize.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Regurgitate.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, I guess it's like inspiring and gives me a little bit of hope, especially,
Yes.
for people who, I mean, especially, I mean, I hate to say this, but especially for people who aren't coming from California, because if you were raised in public school, it's really hard to undo that way of thinking. It's hard to not be like, well, the news told me, so that's what it is, because that's what we're taught in school. We're taught to learn what we're told, do what we're told. So I think that's just hard to ungroom out of. Like, I'm so grateful. I tell everyone I'm so grateful we homeschool. Like, it's been quite the journey, but like I can't imagine having her in public schools, especially in California right now, of all times. Like all the stuff that's coming out. Nah, thank you. We good. We'll stick to doing what we're doing.
Hmm. And it's props to you for doing that, because that is a giant job and it's so rewarding. I know it must be phenomenal to just have that freedom and to teach your child what you know is true. And but for myself being there, for our family, it just did not feel right. Um, Particularly because they're older and they've already gone through the school system. And I considered for like a millisecond to do homeschooling with them, but I have three kids and they're all like, two are teenagers and one's 10. And it just would be different for them and for myself. So we knew we had to go somewhere that's super independently minded and can support their growth on, going to public schools and just finding the best school to support their needs, and our needs as well. So it fit the bill. But that is one of the best options while living in California to be homeschooling, because that's how I know that most people are surviving, by homeschooling.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially when it comes to all the exemptions. And I will say, I mean, I if like we didn't start, we started when she was in first or second grade. Um,
Second, mhm.
I think it was first grade because I mean,
I think start in 2020, spring of 2020 is when the lockdown happened. I think it disappeared for a minute. Keep talking. 2020, March, April 2020 is when the lockdown happened. And that's when Zoom school had started. And I know that's when a lot of people just chose to do homeschooling. But maybe some people didn't like.
okay.
All right, let's recap for a minute, because I think we lost you for a second. So when
Yeah.
did you start? When did you start homeschooling?
Yeah. So Madi was in first grade because I had her in TK and then kindergarten. And in those years, we were supposedly at like the best school in our county. And she experienced bullying the first year and then racism the second year and bullying
Oh,
the second year.
wow.
And I was like, oh, hell no, we are not starting off this way. And I tried to kind of like make some change, started trying to figure out what to do with the Board of Education and like how to get people trained on how to deal with racism and bullying. But I was like, bro, this is a lost cause. Like, I'm spending so much time and energy. Like, I'm not making a difference and not enough for my child to be able to benefit from it right now. So,
Mm.
we pulled her. Plus she was just getting sick all the time. And I was like, this is not cool. Like I lost jobs because of it. And so, I just decided, and at that point I had my own business. So I was like, all right, we're just going to do our own thing. And it was so hard at first trying to figure out how to do it and what way was best for her and programs and curriculums and how to keep track of it all. It was a nightmare, honestly, at first, but we have a great system finally now, just like really in the last couple months. So we even started our own school and that didn't work out, just so that I didn't have to keep her, you know, didn't have to get her vaxxed and masked and all the things. And even that didn't work out. So we are sticking to what we're doing right now, and we're super grateful. Like we don't, they're not honoring exemptions anymore, most exemptions. And so really for us, it's just not even an option in California for her to go to school, which is like the stupidest, saddest shit in the world, that because of our medical choices, we're not allowed to take advantage of a lot of the services. Like if I want to get her assessed for something, I have to pay out of pocket because she's not with a public district. So there's just, I mean, there's a lot to it, but I'm, I guess what I wanted to circle back to was just that, like, it's so nice to hear and inspiring to hear that they're doing this in somewhere. I mean,
Mhm.
it would be nice if it was everywhere, but the system in California is definitely broken. I mean, public school in general, like the testing and all that. I mean, there's a whole other right rabbit hole, but
Mhm.
um California is for show
Yeah.
broken, like broken. So it's just nice to hear that there are places that are doing this. Like that's enlightening and brings hope that, like, damn man, there are still some teachers who are, really encouraging them to think that deeply. And yeah, that's beautiful. That's
Mhm.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. And but you brought up so much to just talk about. And the main point, the main reason why we left, honestly, is because of the children, because we wanted them to have an experience that was like what, say, my husband and I experienced, growing up in the 80s and 90s. Like, where does that exist? And I'm like, oh, it has to have. We went on this journey to go find the spot we're going to move to because we're like, we have to find this spot. And I know it's out there. So we
Yeah,
went on this like 1,500-mile journey, like within 6 days, to go and just seek out where we wanted to go and move or keep our family to. It was like, but many people did this, many families did this, many people, because if they had the means and they just went for it, they were kind of gutsy. That's just what a lot of people did. I think like so many thousands of people did this during this great exodus of California during the COVID time,
totally.
that were able, and so we had to move because we don't vaccinate our kids anymore because our son was vaccine injured when he was a toddler. So that's really what woke me up to all these maybe so-called conspiracies, right? It's like the word itself, was invented by the CIA to deter people from actually thinking for themselves and investigating anything. Believe what you're told, be a good sheep, and your life will be happy, right?
Yep.
But, just didn't. I mean, I did that for a long time. I vaccinated my kids, didn't know any better, thinking it was like for the best and highest good. Law, I was indoctrinated. I think we all were to a point, unless you're a complete rebel from childhood, which is amazing. Love
Yeah.
that. um, but so anyways, that's really what woke me up to these different perspectives of reality, the duality of it all. And so we had to just find a new spot that would be more accepting, because we all of our vaccine exemptions also were null and void as well, with all these SB 276 or 176 that passed with. And it's so, California is so corrupt and backwards on purpose, um, and it's not pro-human, so it's really sad.
Right. It's crazy too. You think about it and it's like, just some of the stuff that I'd be hearing. Like one of my friends does the grassroots stuff for some of the vaccinations exemption, all that work. And I just got super excited the other day, and I was like, bro, I just heard they, stopped. They took it off one of the bills to have it mandated for the HPV vaccine for girls. And she was like, oh, well, yeah, they took it off, but did you hear about the wording? And I was like, what do you mean the wording? I don't know shit about shit. Like, I wish I did, but it's just not something
Yeah.
I put my time and energy towards, because I'm just like, bro, it ain't for
Yeah.
us. We ain't gonna do it. Like, I don't have the time and
Right.
energy to fight it, but I'm so grateful for the ones that are doing that. I've
Yeah.
tapped in and tried and literally started a school for this, but um it's just not where we are right now. And she was like, the wording, bro, like it says that it's not mandated, but that it's expected that they get it. So all they did was change one word. It still says it's expected. So, and what do you do with that? Like, what does each district do with that word? Like, does that mean it's mandated then? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what? What? Like, this huge win we are all celebrating, and it's like all they did was change it from mandated to expected. Like,
But
come on, bruh. Like, it's already been around long enough that we see the effects that that's have had on females that have taken it. I mean, knowingly or not. So it's astounding to me that, like, there's so much knowledge, there's so much, they have peer reviewed science, studies, experiments, research on all this stuff out there if you go looking for it. I mean, that's the hard part, right? Where to look, how to look, how to tell what source you're looking at, who's
right.
paying for that source. So who's
Yeah.
funding the experiments? There's so many details that go into all this. Like, that's what makes me so sad and about all of the things in California, because having a kid, like, we decided to take our time with vaccinations, but we still did, and my baby was vaccine injured. And had I known this stuff back then, or I mean, they hide it on purpose. None of this is on accident. They do all of this on purpose. It's all been planned out. And that's what makes us sound like conspiracy theorists, right? It's like, we're like,
Right.
this is the plan, right? They were in war rooms talking about this shit. Like, bro, that's what was happening. I mean, it's been written about in books. You were just saying you read a book about some of this stuff that's happened. Movies have talked about these things that are happening now years ago, and it's
Yeah.
happening. They've planned it, and now they're executing it, and we're just standing by watching it happen.
Yeah.
If we don't stand up and talk about it, like, then we're the sheep too. We're
Yeah.
just as sheepish as the other. I'm trying to be a lion. I'm a lion. Like, I'm a lioness, and I will protect my baby from any other injuries. Even just her doctor the other day was like, oh, let's try a salt pill for the this or that, and I'm like, what's in it? Let me just make my own salt pill, okay? I'm like, I know I sound crazy, it's fine. I don't know what they're putting in salt pills. Shit, I don't trust anyone anymore, because I trusted the doctors. I trusted these vaccinations were
I
for,
know.
and they broke my trust. And I guess I think that's why a lot of people go this way. It's because once your trust is broken with the one most valuable thing in your world, your
Yeah.
baby, your baby, then you gonna
Yeah.
think twice. But if it hasn't affected your child in that way, or
Yeah.
you don't know that it will, I mean, then there's no reason to doubt it, right? So
Right.
I don't know.
And that's really what it comes down to. When it comes down to your personal experience, or it's just a story that you can't relate to, and
Right.
you don't want to believe it because that totally conflicts with your set beliefs. And that
Exactly.
itself is cognitive dissonance,
Yes.
of which we all have in varying degrees.
Yep.
And the more you question, the more you investigate, the more you just lead with your own gut, your intuition, you will, like, dissolve your cognitive dissonance and be more open to learning things that you may find mind blowing. But that's okay, because that's shifting and that's you're expanding, you're growing. And it's so amazing. But at the same time, it's very difficult, and because it's contrasting and conflicting. And then, of course, you have conversations with people who think you're crazy for
Yeah.
thinking this way.
Totally.
So, I mean, it's not a fun, easy journey, but it's something we're all doing at various time points. We all wake up to break through the matrix at one point or another. There's so many people becoming aware of just this topic. And the little printout that my daughter was given is just an example of the many different routes. That's only like a dozen
Yeah.
things to investigate, which there are thousands. thousands of things to investigate that will be
Thousands.
mind blowing because you're like, what? How is this even to be true? And why? And the question here is when you get yourself to asking why something is the way it is, you just have to keep going further and further until you find your intuitive gut feelings as a result, the answer.
Yep. Yep.
You can't back down. You have to just keep going.
Totally. I think it's important to note too that like we all felt this discomfort, this dissonance, right? Like we were all
Oh, yes.
gung ho about these vaccines. We were all raised on being vaccinated.
Yeah.
Like 99% of America was raised being vaccinated. So
Yeah.
it was just the norm. So we all had to come to this point where we're like questioning the vaccines. Like I didn't think it was the vaccines for hella long. I was like, what's happening with her? Like I
I
don't
know.
understand any of this and not getting the so it took me doing my research. I didn't let anyone tell me what it was. I took the information that was given from the doctor, and then I went and researched it myself too. So I was like, oh, wow, this like all these warning signs, like this might cause this might cause this might cause this. Like, oh shit, well, she's got half of that stuff. So let me go figure out what else. Let me go find out what's in it that might cause it. And that's when it all kind of came. That was the awakening journey of that. But even like Amy and I were talking about before this, just when it comes to like certain aspects of understanding these rabbit holes, let's say for instance, like I was on my spiritual journey before I started knowing about any of these conspiracy things, including
Mm,
vaccinations. That was one of the first, but just in the last 3 years I started learning about stuff that I still can't wrap my head around. It's wild. I know that it's true because I've seen the proof. I've seen the pictures. I've seen things that I'm never going to unsee and I wish I could, you know. So the proof is out there if you go looking for it, and I think that it's so fascinating to me. Like one of my homegirls was like, "Oh, well, I've been knowing about this. Like this is what started my spiritual awakening was the conspiracy." And so I just thought it was so crazy that like that's what started hers, and I didn't even know about any of it until 10 years into my awakening. So it's and just kind of go circling back to like, bro, like it was uncomfortable for all of us. Like none of us want to
yeah.
face this. It hurts to know that we've been duped. We feel stupid. I feel stupid. I feel like I hurt my baby, and it was because I
Mm,
was duped. So we all go through those feelings. It's super uncomfortable, and yet it leads to an enlightenment that can help us grow and expand and um, explore even more into what's actually happening and what's actually true. And honestly,
yeah.
once you step onto that journey, there's really no going back because you're just like, well, what else am I being lied to about? Like, it's deep, bro. There's so much.
So true. It's so well said because
Yeah.
it's so true. It really, hmm, I wouldn't change anything about it. But I mean, maybe just being a little more outspoken because I honestly just got jaded. I got jaded so much for just being the only person that I know of that was speaking on these things before
Oh yeah.
anyone had an idea. And just because the awareness factor is helpful, like if someone you it takes like when you're deeply in your set beliefs and you hear something coming at you from just another side angle and it's like kind of annoying but you're like you kind of listen but you don't and just it doesn't apply to you and so you just kind of like it takes maybe the 10th time listening to be like you know what maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I honestly think I got a little bit jaded just speaking out on
And it's
so many
so
things.
easy to, right? Because like I said, we are all coming from this place where we're all trusting. And when everyone else is trusting, and then we are given a reason not to trust
Yeah.
or to question, let's just say. And like everyone in my family knew, well, I don't know if they know exactly how my daughter was vaccine injured, but
Mhm.
everyone knew, and but nobody paid much attention to that. They paid attention to the fact that we didn't continue to vaccinate after that.
Mm.
And like we were restricted from meeting new babies in the family because we weren't vaccinated all the way, you know, and instead of, you know, so it's like you just feel that dissonance, like, wow, bro, like for real, for real.
Mhm.
And still, you know, I still have close family members who literally swear up and down that we don't care about anyone else because we don't vaccinate. And it's just wild to me, like knowing what that they know what my daughter went through, you know, personally. Like I called them crying because I was devastated by what my baby was going through.
Yeah.
And it doesn't click, you know. So for some people, I truly believe it never will. Like I believe that they will leave this earth feeling this way, thinking this way, and that's fine. Like I don't have any judgment. Like I totally feel like it's okay to disagree, but this is just a part of the awakening, right? There's so many things that can awaken us. That's what I think is fascinating to
Yeah.
this journey. And that's why I love that your daughter's teacher introduced these thoughts, like, bro, like look at it. And whether you believe it or not, like go
Yep.
do your
Yes.
research. Go do your research. Go find out your damn self rather than watching the news to see if it's true or not, you know?
Yes. So great. It's so
Yeah.
great. I mean, I couldn't imagine having that class because that would have been, it's just so opening. It's such an opening concept for to be planted, like the seeds to be planted in in like high school. And
Totally.
this is stuff we talk about in our household anyways. So for
Right.
it to be reflected out and appreciated and just given as normal conversation in a classroom, it's just mind blowing to me
Right.
coming from California.
No, it is. It is.
Uh,
I
um,
do I do really think though that, like, I mean, I know that these systems that are broken are crumbling to the ground as we speak and will be rebuilt by the kids like that are learning to think for themselves, and they gonna be the ones teaching, you know, the younger kids, like, hey, I don't know what was taught before, let me show you how we did it, like, because you grew up in, I mean, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of that, hey, oh, you're from California, huh? Like we I know a lot
mhm.
of people already get that, but there's gonna be even more of it because those kids are gonna come out of school and be like, what, you didn't learn this in school? Wait,
Yeah.
what, how'd you learn? You
Uh,
memorized? That's how you learn? Like, you know, it's just, I think it's just, I don't know. It's inspiring to me. Like, all right, we got some hope for the youth here.
yeah. And one funny thing here, the locals who've been here a long time, they're like, yeah, don't tell anyone you're from California. Just don't.
I
And
bet.
yeah, like if people change their license plates ASAP when they move here. And there are so many Californians here. Like I'm not even kidding you. Like our neighborhood is filled with transplants from California.
Oh, I'm sure.
And but they're all like-minded. So, like I just knew I wanted to be near like-minded people. And that's exactly what we got.
Yeah.
Really amazing. I'm gonna circle back to you mentioned you were spiritually awakened for a long time before having any of this like 3D nonsense, like the controlled matrix information, right?
Yeah.
Well, myself, I was also awakened spiritually um just for a few years, and then it came crumbling down when I discovered the vaccine injury, and I was connecting all the dots to various things, but it really started and it was like a trickle effect, right? Like one thing leads to another, to another, to another once you start asking why and getting your answer of the why, because that's the hardest part. Like getting through the why would this happen? Why would we purposely have people lying to us and saying things were safe and effective when higher up the chain of events, they know damn well it's not safe or effective, but it's actually something that's made to harm children
Yeah.
and adults. And that wrapping your brain around that is just that's pretty epic in proportion to having your whole uh thought systems on how the world works, you
Yeah.
know. Um, there's a documentary called Monopoly. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen that yet?
No.
It's a great, great documentary going over how all these three-letter agencies are all interconnected and the strings are all pulled by the same people and on a
Mm.
worldwide level.
Yeah,
And it came out during COVID. And so it wraps a lot of that into it, but it really has the financial market, the medical industry, and the media. And then it's all explained and displayed very, very well. It's very cohesive. It's
right.
very well done for anyone
Totally. I
wanting
love
to.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I will say, like, I have been into alternative healthcare. Um, like I studied herbal medicine, probably, I mean, before like the deepest part of my awakening really came when my daughter was born. I knew it's so
Mm.
crazy. I don't know why this is coming to me, but like I remember New Year's Eve, 2012, New Year's Eve. I remember at midnight, giving my hugs and taking that shot at New Year's at midnight. I remember this being like, this is going to be like the pivotal year of my life. I knew it was. And I had my daughter that same year. Um, and um and that was like the deepest part of my awakening, right? But like before that, I was already studying like herbalism and really into the holistic health. Then after I had my daughter, I worked in a holistic health functional medicine office in the Bay Area. And then and there was when I started realizing the ties between these three-letter um bureaucracies, right, that we have. And so it was exactly like you're saying, like this trip, like first it was the vaccination entry, then it was like realizing these ties between these federal agencies, and then it went into all like Disney and like all this other, I guess the last 3 years was when I started knowing about like that other realm of it, right? And that was, and I was explaining to Amy earlier, this was like I was going, I was feeling so dark learning about all this stuff and just disgusted and really awakening to the dark, darkness that's
Right.
here. And so before that, I was like, oh my God, love and light, like unicorn farts or Skittles. And like, I was just on cloud nine. I mean, I knew I was dealing with a lot of my own inner darkness and, a lot of that. But once I started realizing like the actual sick, like dark evil in the world, um, it just like opened me up to this whole other realm of awakening. And so so I guess, I've said this multiple times, like I'm so grateful that I took the long journey to awakening, because I know so many people who within that 3 years, this last 3 years since COVID really have waken up
Mm.
and boom, it's like all of it at once. And I had time to integrate and process. I could not, I don't think that I would be able to handle such rapid, accelerated awakening, because it's just so much. And so I give kudos to the people who are awakening now, and it's just much more rapid. And thank God. And I do also believe that the people who have taken their time doing all this work are the ones to kind of have we've cleared the path for the ones who are having the rapid awakening, so that like there are ways to integrate that there's methods, us putting out this information, like, and all the healing modalities that we've all mastered because through our own spiritual awakening, helping these ones get to um their path and get through their path easier because it's so rapid and accelerated. um yeah, I just think that's
Mhm.
like how it was orchestrated. It was meant to be like
Yes.
that. We were meant to experience it like that, and I'm just super grateful.
Right.
So
Yeah, exactly. And another point here is that this is a spiritual war, and it's really not necessarily, it's a spiritual, it's on a soul level, and it's really it's a controlling system that wants your mind to believe one way, wants your mind, body, spirit to believe one way that's controllable. And then once you break through, you have your spiritual experiences, you have you see the duality. You're able to then see like this bigger picture that has spirituality and like the light and the dark, and seeing how it all plays together and
Yeah.
is really, I mean, it's so evident now that the blinders are off, but it's just phenomenal to see and how it all plays out. And but knowing and trusting that understandings come to us when they're meant to come to us, and it's not too soon or too late, but just trusting that we are coming to a grander awareness when the time is right.
Right.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, and
love that.
everyone, so many
Yeah.
people.
I love that. Yeah, because when the time is right, right? Like those are the moments I love the most, when you're having these epiphanies of like, oh my God, like, oh, I've never thought about it like this. Like
Yeah.
having all these insights, and there's so much that goes into that, right? Like there's astrological happenings that lift us into the right, the right time and place, and divine time and order to, thank you, to have those epiphanies, to have those understandings. And it's so much more beautiful. It's not really it's not divine order for us to be shoved into it. And so I firmly believe that we've all had opportunities to step onto this path, and we've either chosen to or chosen not to. Multiple opportunities, multiple opportunities. So the people, who are going to be shoved onto that path, unfortunately, I feel like it's going to be the most uncomfortable for them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I just keep thinking that everyone's alarm clock goes off at certain times, and then hitting the snooze button is is happening when you're not listening to your like the promptings.
To your higher self, right? And that's
Yeah.
who we've been taught not to listen to. Those voices inside of our head, those aren't real. Those aren't, valid, but everyone else outside of us is like, what the fuck? No. And
Mhm.
it's crazy because I mean, it's in every way. It's like what other people think about our bodies and our thoughts and our skills and our, we're rated on everything about, we're even taught that we're only holy if we believe in one of these gods and everyone else is wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's literally so divisive, and it's a trip, bro. Like it makes me like look back and be like, wow, it's so crazy to like look back and have all this knowledge, and I feel so free and liberated and happy. And I know why I felt so down then, because I felt like everything was outside of me. Like I couldn't get to it. It was always going to get something, approval or acceptance or whatever. And now I'm like, what, bro, I got that. It's right here. Like it's right here. If you want it, like I got it. It's, yeah, it's crazy to think that I've lived that life. Everyone has lived that life. And so many people are still trapped in that. Everything they seek, they think is outside of them, but it's really, really, really not at all. None of it. So I don't know. It's a
Right.
trip. It's a
Yeah.
trip to think about.
It is. It is. And but it's really comforting to know that that is the case.
Right.
Um,
So comforting. Oh my God. It's everything. Like I am so happy knowing that it's all here. And even still, right? Like there's still things I struggle with. I'm like, man, I want my little homestead, growing my food and raising my animals, and with my man by my side, and
yes.
friends to have bonfires with every single weekend. Like there's still so many things we strive for, but it's like it all comes back to me. Like if it's not happening in my life, it's because there's something in me preventing it from happening or restricting. Like it's not. And being able to take that accountability and responsibility, like we're not taught how to do that. It's especially in, I guess I should say, in specific circumstances or growing up a certain way, like we all come from different backgrounds and different belief systems and all those, and they all affect that. But coming to that one truth of like, I am God and God is me. And even that can be so controversial. Like I just
Yeah,
stuttered saying that, because like people will take that and spin it 1,000 different ways, and
I
but
know.
they don't know the truths that I know, or their truth is different than what I know, and that's okay too. I'm fine
Yeah,
with other people believing that have to have um you have to go to church in order to go to heaven, or you have to accept Jesus as the one and only savior, and he did all this and he was all this, and that's cool. That's what you believe, and that's what's getting you through, and that's beautiful, and I love that for you.
yeah,
And that might change and it might not. It changed for me. I know it changed for me. I still love Jesus. I'm grateful for him. I talk to him all the time. My homeboy,
mm,
for real. But
yeah,
I don't feel the same way that other people do, or I don't believe it the same way that other
right,
people do. And
right,
because of my own inner truth, because of my own, what I've been shown and what I know inside of me, not because of what somebody else has told me to believe.
right, right. And that's following your innate hunches and your guidance, and just following that rather than the outside seeking of the reassurance of what is the norm thing to do, what is acceptable.
Yeah,
And that is what we're getting rid of. We're really releasing that, where that's where we're headed. I
totally.
know that. And yeah, I know. I just shared with you that amazing book. It's called The Women of Lumeria, and it goes into this teachings and how when Lumeria was a continent, people were living there in the Pacific on this kind of like Hawaiian island, basically. And it just went into these ancient teachings that taught that we are God and God is us. We are our own creator. And it's been taught for eons throughout different cultures on this earth before modern, our current living situation, last few hundred years on earth.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or 1,000 years on earth. Um, but yeah, I know that's another topic of discussion. We could go on and on.
I know, bro, for real. That's why I love it.
Yeah, there's so much, but that's a great book to refer to. Just if you do want to tap into, maybe tapping into like your soul essence of your past lives. If you feel a resonance with that title, with that book, if you look into it, listen to it because it has some information for your soul to remember.
Totally. I could see that being so fascinating, because the stuff that I see in people's sessions, the stuff that I've seen from my own past lives, like I remember a past life from Atlanta. I don't know Atlantis. I don't know that Atlanta.
Mhm.
I don't know that much about it. I just got like a snippet, a preview, if you will. But I was like, oh shit, that was crazy. And it was like something I ended up learning about later, and that confirmed what I saw in this meditation I had to find where this wound happened or whatever. But it was so fascinating. And then just seeing what I see in people's um, in their sessions is unbelievable. Like the stuff, I don't know, even when it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, damn, that's crazy, you know? So I could totally see that being a really good read, and just being able to have like this, not even an understanding, like a remembrance of these things that we know deep down, you know, I, even things that we bring from other planets. Like I know of a Lyrian life that I had. And again, just like a little snippet of it. I don't know much at all, just a snippet when I'm like looking at certain things, but going back and remembering these teachings, and remembering that we are creators of our own life, and but that we are only if we believe it and accept the responsibility of that. Because if we don't believe that and accept that responsibility and take accountability for what we are responsible for creating, the good
Mhm.
and the bad, then we aren't creating it. We're creating it from this space of wounded control from dark beings outside of us. And so I think that's what it takes, is in that divinity and sovereignty and claiming our divinity, that we can create our own lives, and it just takes us remembering how, so that's super powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh, I
As
want to
much
read
as we
it.
can. Yeah, yeah. It's actually on Audible, so you can listen to it.
Yes, perfect. You know me, girl.
It's even better. That's how I'm listening to it.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's full of like jogging of good remembrances, like you said, and it's just such good food for thought and to consider and to just kind of incorporate these different thought forms, because it's channeled. Much of it is channeled from Cryon, from his understandings and what he channels and brings through of the time of Lemuria.
Wow.
And it's of these two individual women who had lifetimes in Lemuria as priestesses, who are then writing the book, and they're now formed with all their remembrances of that lifetime. It's really amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and
That's,
yeah, but I think we should wrap it up. I think we discussed a ton and
yeah.
kind of went everywhere.
Yes. That was awesome. Well, thank you so much, as usual. Such an amazing time chatting with you.
Yes, always, always. I love it.
Awesome. Well, until next time, thanks for tuning in, guys. Please smash that like button and subscribe to our podcast, YouTube, wherever you're seeing this. Show us some love, please, so we can have fun keeping it going.
Yes, exactly. All right, until next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.